All right, let's turn to 2016 now. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie on the campaign trail this morning is heading to New Hampshire. Well, the candidate known for telling it like it is, that's a slogan. He's making headlines for doing just that. This happened at an Iowa town hall. He got into this heated exchange with a voter who questioned his gun rights record. Here's just some of that exchange.
State gun right groups from here in Iowa to Minnesota, even to Georgia, have sent out some emails recently saying that you're very anti-gun when it comes to the Second Amendment. So my question is, how are you going to New Jersey gun owners into thinking that you'll be anything other than a President Michael Bloomberg if you become successful?
Well, because it's not true. So let's start with that. Yeah, does New Jersey have a lot of really difficult gun laws? Yeah, and they were all signed before I became governor. And I'm still waiting for one fact from you about me being anti-gun. Give me one. One fact. Got one?
All right, let's talk.
By the way, I vetoed this.
All right. He also said he vetoed the ID in New Jersey. That's what you heard a bit of there. Let's discuss this with senior politics reporter Stephen Collinson, also joining us political analyst Jason Johnson. Jason, I'm going to start with you. You're here with me in Atlanta. It seemed to have worked for the room.
Yeah, it worked for the room, and Chris Christie is aggressive, he's on point, and he's making a policy argument. And that's what you really want to do at this particular point. We're 2 weeks away from the first debate. Chris Christie wants to say, I'm tough, I'm not a rhino, I can defend myself, and that's something I'll be able to do against Hillary Clinton. I think it was a great moment for him.
So, you know, there's been a lot of criticism of Donald Trump, Stephen, and the way in which he attacks his competitors, his opponents. Is that presidential? Is this, in Christie's view, presidential, that aggressive response to a voter?
It's very interesting because it's a side of Chris Christie that he seemed to try to suppress a little bit during this campaign so far, perhaps amid some worries that bullying behavior might sort of anger voters in Iowa and New Hampshire at these small town hall events. So this was the first time we saw the real authentic Chris Christie, I think, that many voters have perceived in the past of his highlight reels in confrontations with voters in New Jersey. The fact for Chris Christie is, you know, he needs to make a mark. It's almost like Donald Trump, as you said, has stolen his shtick. Christie is barely registering in the polls in Iowa, and he's not doing an awful lot better in the national polls. So he really needs to make something happen, and perhaps this is an opportunity he's spotted where he can sort of put himself across as a little bit more robust than he has so far.
But Stephen, I'm hearing, I don't know if it's two things or an inconsistency here. If this is something he tried to suppress early on, is this exchange Christie not being able to control that this is not the best of him, or is this the telling it like it is candidate doing exactly what comes natural?
I think if you watch the full exchange, it never crossed the line really into overt aggression. He was polite and respectful to the man who asked him that question about gun rights. He said everyone's, entitled to their own opinion. It was only at the end there where it got really quite sharp. So I think there's a line that Christie needs to walk on here between being too aggressive and being, robust and confrontational and all the things that made him a good politician in the first place.
So is this the barometer by which a candidate determines he or she can get into that top 10, how aggressive one can be? I mean, it's not specifically on policy, because we look to what happened with Ted Cruz in the chamber, calling Mitch McConnell just a liar.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the problem with the debate format. Usually, if you're running for president, you don't have to worry about national polls. All you have to worry about is how well I'm doing in Iowa. Do I have a team on the ground? But now they have this new stipulation. You have to be in the top 10 to get into these first several polls. So candidates are going to be more inclined to say aggressive things, do outlandish things, because they've got to get into those first two forms to even be considered valid to go into Iowa. So I'm not going to be surprised if we see more things like this, although I'd say Cruz insulting McConnell, he's never been that popular in the Senate, and Chris Christie yelling at somebody, that's right within their wheelhouse. That's their personality in general.
It just seems surprising, Stephen, that there is no line that's been drawn yet. I mean, we're going to later today see if Donald Trump's comments about John McCain have impacted his standing in the polls with the new polling that comes out at 8:30 and then at 9 o'clock. But it seems as if voters are eating this up.
Yeah, that's for sure. You talk to activists in New Hampshire or Iowa, they're much more into what Donald Trump is doing than perhaps some of the pundits in Washington. I think the real question here is about authenticity. Politicians probably need to act in the way that made them popular in the first place and drew people to them. So if you're Chris Christie or Ted Cruz, that's a confrontational approach. If Jeb Bush suddenly started these kind of antics, people would say it's out of character, he's not authentic, and he's perhaps trying too hard. So each candidate has to make their own decisions about exactly how they're going to put themselves across to voters.
Yeah, you don't abandon what got you into the room. You don't abandon what got you to the party. Stephen Collinson, Jason Johnson, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks much.